Myer boss Bernie Brookes has admitted that department stores are losing the battle against offshore and online competitors. But he's convinced the company can turn things around and return to profit growth by 2015. Myer reported a net profit of $127 million, down 8.7%, and a full-year dividend of 18 cents compared with 19 the year before. Brookes told Nabila Ahmed that he was hopeful stable government would improve consumer confidence, but he recognised that tough times were still there for many.
I'm quite concerned about various states having various increasing levels of unemployment. I think particularly South Australia and Tasmania, and that's reflecting in our sales as well. So increased unemployment is not good for discretionary retail. So that's the concerning part. And that's why we were a bit down on our forecast that we've provided the market, because we're just not sure what's going to happen in that area. However, we've got stability in government, and I think that's a good start.
In recent years, subsidies like the carbon tax handout and the education handout have boosted your bottom line and your sales. Do you think, with the coalition government in charge and the end of those subsidies, how big a threat is that to your customer?
Not that worried about the lack of government incentive or handout that might occur under a coalition government. In fact, on the contrary, we think some degree of normality is going to help consumer sentiment.
Department stores have been fighting for relevance for some years now. Do you feel like you're losing the fight?
I think we have been losing the fight. I mean, you only need to look at the department store share of retail sales. It's almost inarguable that we've lost share to fast fashion environments, to international players, to discount department stores and to a lot of specialty stores. However, the omni-channel experience and the changes that we're making to our stores in regard to improving the service, integrating them with online, I think will see a slight resurrection of the department store model.
And you are going to be breaking even with online this year, aren't you?
That's correct. So the main one was the cost of fulfilment. It's very expensive at the moment where we pick a product from a store, take it out the back and send it to the customer through the postal network. That's an expensive proposition to do it. You're sort of handling the product 3 times. What's happening now is we've set up a dedicated distribution centre that opens in about 3 weeks' time in Melbourne, and that distribution centre has 15,000 items which fill about 65% of all our online orders, and then we can top it up with need be for some of the specialty orders from the local stores. So the pleasing part now is that we've got a much lower cost of fulfilment. We'll be able to provide faster delivery to our customers, and equally important, we'll be able to control it and handle it only once. So we're quite excited by this last little bit of the jigsaw puzzle to make us competitive in online.
You've come a long way from your Woolies trolley boy days. You've been in retail for 30-odd years. If you were to draw a roadmap for retail now, how would it be different?
I think there's no doubt that what you would want if you could rewrite the playbook for, say, a department store is you'd want smaller stores where you've got extended range available online. You'd want not as many stores, you'd want them well spread out, and you'd probably want a lot more technical facilities in store. And that's exactly where we're headed. We're reducing the size of our stores. We're making sure that even in a store where we might have 40 or 50,000 items, such as Wagga, that eventually that store will be able to have access to 195,000 items with the endless aisle concept of having all of that product available online and in store in a mobile device to assist them.
And Bernie, you've described 2014 as a transition year. What should shareholders expect in 2015?
We're expecting 2015 to give us a good kick up again in both sales and profit.
Are you tempted at all to hang around to deliver that profit growth and go out on a high?
I have no plans to stay on beyond August 2014. 8 years is a long time to run a department store business, particularly as I'm commuting from Sydney to Melbourne every week, and I think that's enough. It's time for someone else to have a good go.
Won't you miss it?
When I get to August next year, I'm running very hard to that finish line to make sure that I deliver the best result and hand over in good order. When I get to that time, I'll then decide what I'm going to do. But hopefully it's in retail, but certainly we'll miss some parts of retail, but it's pretty hard work in department stores.
It's certainly a tough gig, and he is putting a positive spin on it, but times are going to be tough for at least the next 12 months. David, do you think, point blank, do the big retailers really have a viable future in Australia?
Look, when a generally applicable technology like the internet comes along, it affects every business in the world, and you've got to get on it early. The Commonwealth Bank, in the 90s, we decided electronic banking was the way of the future. When the internet was definitely going to be there, also in the 90s, we decided that would be the communications platform of the future. You've got to invest in it aggressively, even when the analysts say it's bad investment. You've got to take hold of the model and shake it around. And the retailers generally are probably a bit late doing that. What Bernie says, though, is interesting, because if you are going to do something, there's a high-end fashion, higher margin side of the business that will survive. So you've got to grab that and do something with the rest.
It's like shifting the Titanic, though. It can be pretty slow. And Matt, what do you think? What can stores like Myer and DJs do to try to boost sales and get consumers in?
I found it astounding for a start that Myer at the moment takes items off the floor and actually sends them to people in the mail rather than having a delivery centre at the back. That's extraordinary. Underlines how far behind they are in online. I think the big question for Bernie is he's going to be willing to close stores? Because if there's a future for big department stores, it's potentially one that looks like overseas, where you have one amazing retail experience, perhaps like Selfridges in London, where it's an awesome retail experience, but there's not many other stores. It's almost like you go to one shop. It's almost like a temple that you go and worship as a consumer. You worship the brand, you worship the company, but you go and buy things overseas.
Hopefully not the Temple of Doom. Good suggestion, they could take it on board.